The fall of empires. Is the US next? Every great empire in history believed it was invincible until the moment it wasn't. The Roman Empire, once the center of civilization, crumbled under the weight of corruption, economic disparity, and political chaos. The Ottoman Empire, which dominated vast territories for centuries, slowly lost its grip as internal struggles and external competition weakened its power. The Soviet Union, a global superpower, collapsed almost overnight due to military overreach and economic failure. These empires had different timelines and unique circumstances, but they all shared one undeniable truth: no empire lasts forever. So, the question we need to ask today is the United States heading down the same path? And if so, how close are we to the tipping point? From internal decay to military overextension, the warning signs are eerily similar to what we've seen before in history. If past empires have taught us anything, it's that the fall is never sudden. It's a slow decline that builds up until collapse is inevitable. So let's take a closer look at whether the US is following the same historical pattern and if there's any way to reverse the trajectory. Second brief introduction. Hey, welcome to the channel. If you're interested in the rise and fall of great nations, the shifting dynamics of global power, and what these changes mean for the future, then you're in the right place. History doesn't just tell us about the past, it warns us about the future. And right now, it's giving us some serious red flags. Today, we're breaking down the 3 biggest warning signs that have led to the collapse of past empires. These aren't just abstract theories, they're real, measurable trends happening in the US today. The goal of this video isn't to spread doom and gloom, but to analyze historical patterns and see if America is heading toward the same fate as fallen empires of the past. And most importantly, we'll ask the question, is there a way to stop it? 3. Why you should watch. This isn't just a history lesson. This is about the present and the future, about a nation that has shaped the modern world and whether it's now in decline. By the end of this video, you'll have a clearer understanding of the patterns that led to the downfall of previous empires and how they're playing out in the US today. We'll break it down into 3 major sections, each comparing the US to a fallen empire. First, we'll look at internal decay, how political division, economic inequality, and social unrest mirror the downfall of Rome. Then we'll examine the loss of soft power, drawing parallels to the Ottoman Empire's gradual decline in global influence. Finally, we'll explore military overextension and how the US is following the same costly path that led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So stick around because the connections we're about to make might change the way you see the world forever. Fourth, structured breakdown. 1. Internal decay, the Roman Empire parallel. The Roman Empire wasn't brought down by a single war or a sudden invasion. It collapsed from within. As Rome expanded, so did its internal problems. The wealth gap between the elite and the common citizens widened dramatically. The once thriving middle class began to disappear, crushed under heavy taxation and an economic system that favored the rich. Corrupt politicians lined their pockets while the average Roman struggled to survive. Political division and constant infighting made it nearly impossible to govern effectively. As trust in the government eroded, civil unrest became the norm. Eventually, Rome was no longer able to sustain itself, and when outside forces finally struck, the empire was already too weak to fight back. Now, let's fast forward to the United States. Today, income inequality is at historic highs, with the top 1% controlling more wealth than the entire middle class. Wages have remained stagnant while the cost of living, housing, healthcare, education has skyrocketed. Homelessness is rising at alarming rates, and a growing number of Americans feel like the American dream is no longer within reach. Politically, the country has never been more divided. No matter which side of the political spectrum you fall on, it's clear that trust in the government is deteriorating. Protests, riots, and social movements signal a population that is increasingly dissatisfied and disillusioned. Just like Rome, the US is facing an era of internal decay that threatens its stability from within. 2. Loss of influence. The Ottoman Empire parallel. At its peak, the Ottoman Empire was a dominant global power, influencing trade, diplomacy, and culture across continents. However, as the world changed, the empire failed to adapt. One of the key factors in its decline was the gradual loss of soft power, its ability to shape global narratives, maintain alliances, and keep its influence strong without relying on military force. Over time, as European nations rose in power and new economic and political structures took shape, the Ottoman Empire found itself struggling to maintain its once unquestioned dominance. Allies drifted away, rivals grew stronger, and eventually the empire became a shadow of what it once was. Now, let's look at the United States. For decades, the US wielded enormous soft power, shaping the world's economy, culture, and politics. Hollywood movies, American brands, and the idea of democracy itself were powerful tools that influenced nations worldwide. But today, we're seeing a decline in this influence. Trust in American leadership has weakened, with many countries questioning the US's role as the so-called leader of the free world. Scandals, political instability, and a series of failed foreign policies have made global allies more skeptical than ever. New economic and political alliances, such as BRICS, are challenging the US-dominated world order. When an empire loses the ability to persuade and inspire, it starts to lose control. Third, military overextension. The Soviet Union parallel. One of the key reasons for the Soviet Union's collapse was military overextension. The USSR poured massive resources into its military, engaging in expensive wars, maintaining a vast network of military bases, and pushing an ideological agenda that drained its economy. The longer it tried to maintain its grip on the world, the more fragile its own foundations became. Eventually, the costs became unsustainable, and when economic cracks formed, the entire system collapsed almost overnight. Now, compare that to the United States. The US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined. With over 750 military bases worldwide and countless conflicts that have cost trillions, the financial strain is immense. Public support for war is dwindling, and many Americans are questioning whether this level of military spending is sustainable. As the economy struggles with inflation and national debt soars past record levels, the US faces the same problem that doomed the Soviet Union, stretching itself too thin while neglecting internal stability. 5. What do you think? Are we watching history repeat itself? Is the United States truly in decline, or can it turn things around? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear different perspectives on this. Let's start a conversation. If you found this analysis insightful, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more deep dives into the rise and fall of global powers. The more we understand history, the better we can prepare for the future. History teaches us one thing: no empire lasts forever. The US is facing the same challenges that brought down the greatest empires of the past. The real question isn't if the US will fall, but when and what will take its place. Thanks for watching, and until next time.